Welcome friends. There's lots of things I have not done before, and one of them is properly being to Sydney. I've been through Sydney, I've been past Sydney, I've been over Sydney, but I've never actually been to Sydney. So this week I spent a frantic 3 days running around trying to catch the last of the Sydney Biennale? It's one of those. Which is a massive art event that was stretched across like 5 different venues, including a whole island, which you had to get to by ferry. It's very exciting. I've done a little compilation of highlights and videos and all sorts of bits and pieces for you, and I'm going to run that now. This is also the top that I wore, and it could be fresher. I'm going to take it off after this video. Sydney's 19th Biennale took place between the 21st of March and the 9th of June this year, so it's only just finished. There were 5 main places that you could visit: MCA, Art Gallery New South Wales, Carriageworks, Cockatoo Island and Artsy. But there was also sort of little things sprinkled around, like there was a thing where you could go around with your iPhone around the rocks and look at stuff. We only had 3 days, so I ran around and saw as much as possible but didn't see everything. And one of the criticisms levelled at this event was that there was far too much video work. And I know video is very, I want to say prescient, but I don't really know what that word means. I've said it anyway. It was too hard to sort of see every single video piece going around to all these different events. It was just way too much. We felt like you were drowning in video at some points. And there were a lot of sort of tonal things that I think reflected more of the art director Juliana Egberg's taste rather than her curatorial stance, which was, I think, a lot of people found a bit distracting. Looking back though, like, I think there's been so much criticism, but actually it was really well done. I had a really good time. It was really interesting. I wanted to look at everything. Maybe that's the point, that I really wanted to see everything. No matter whether I thought it was interesting or not, I wanted to see it all. And that has to be a measure of success, I think. So here are some of my highlights, and we start at MCA, where I saw a piece by a French artist called Aurélien Froment, and I've picked like the hardest name to pronounce to do first, and it was a piece called Tombeau de Ferdinand Cheval. Again, my French, not so good. Pretty much that's the tomb of Ferdinand Cheval. I don't know if it's actually where he's entombed, but he made this massive, huge sort of structure. He was a postman in the late 1800s, and it's sort of this really naive building. It's huge, but it's sort of covered in all these sculptures and sort of bits of architectural details that he made or devised himself, and it's completely bizarre. Apparently he didn't travel very much, but he travelled in his mind to all these different cultural places and tried to recreate what he imagined was there. And what Froment has done is gone around and photographed lots of the elements, putting a piece of black fabric around behind, cloaking various elements so you can just sort of pick them all out. And it's huge, the amount of photographs. It's like a massive, huge document along one wall. All in black and white, but really striking. I really liked it. I spent quite a bit of time with it. After that, we moved on to Roni Horn's piece called 9 Liquid Incidents, which is the sort of thing I wouldn't normally take that much time with, I don't think. I sort of walked in like, oh, okay. But as soon as I did, it became really amazingly interesting. Pretty much there's these glass tubs, and they look like they're full of water, like brimming to the top, like they're just about to flow over. And then when you walk around for a while, you sort of realize that it's a solid tub of glass, like the whole thing is made of glass. My favourite piece, though, was by Lislegaard. I should look up how to pronounce these things. She had a piece called Oracles, Owls, Some Animals Never Sleep. I guess it was kind of a bit eerie, but it was 2 computer-generated owls, although I naively didn't realise they were computer-generated straight away. But they're sort of in black and white in this orange room. And they sort of mimic each other, but then they're sort of out a bit. When they open their mouths, they're sort of talking, but also squawking, and sometimes in English, sometimes in other languages, sometimes sampling films. It was really glitchy and really odd, really intriguing. I went back a couple of times. I also thought it was the start of what seemed to be a trend that I've noticed, not just at the Biennale, but elsewhere, of female artists investigating early sort of classic science fiction. So stuff like H.G. Wells and things like that, which is really a cool thing to sort of investigate, I think. There's a lot in there, dystopian and utopian and all sorts of themes. So that was one of my favourites. We also looked at Our Short Century, which is a piece by Emily Roysdon. There was a collaboration with The Knife, which was a nice twist. It was really bright. It was sort of, everything was pink and yellow, but there was sort of this video that looked a bit dour. But then you put the headphones on and there was this like really dancey sort of knife track, and it just changed the whole vision you had of the artwork, which was really good. Next we head off to Carriageworks, which is these massive converted warehouses. Really impressive venue, actually. This space in particular was very heavy on video, and there was a room where which was like a cinema, where you could watch really long pieces, which obviously we didn't have time for. This was where you just felt like, oh my god, so much video. But there was some lovely stuff there, including a piece by Tinka Pittoors called, I'm going to say this completely wrong, Dislogical Principle, because I think has she invented that word? I think she might have. And this was, like, I've written here in my notes, a welcome burst of colour and chaotic form in the carnivorous halls of Carriageworks. It was built in the space, so she went there, inhabited the space, and just built all this crazy stuff using sort of, it was super colourful. There was sort of flags everywhere, and there was a desk, and there was wire frames, and there was toilet paper that had been dipped in ink, and it was just like you couldn't actually go into the space, but it was just like everything had just been placed. And there was these huge cardboard boxes. It was this craziness, and really a sort of burst, sort of explosion, I guess, of stuff that was really well needed, because a lot of the pieces sort of seemed very staid. In all the venues, so that was really cool and immersive. That's one of the words I put down. And I think too there was a lack of really large scale installations. So that as soon as you came across anything that sort of took up a huge amount of space, you were just like, wow. Also, there was Daniel McKewen's Running Man, which I think I've seen before. It's been around since 2008, and it's weirdly hypnotic, I thought. There was some great video. There was too much video, but there was actually some really good videos there. There was one by a couple going by the name of Broersen and Lukács, my pronunciation, called Mastering Bambi, where they redid sort of scenes from Bambi without Bambi, and it was sort of quite eerie. Also, Ann-Sofi, Sidén and Jonathan Bepler's Curtain Callers was really good too. It was just like this continuous video of people at, I think it was like the Danish National Theatre or something, and it was sort of kept going from backstage to in front of house. It was just like this continual looping thing. It was really good. Henna-Riikka Halonen at Artspace had 3 videos, 2 of which I really liked, Moderate Manipulations and The Bathhouse. And again, it was like this thing of female artists investigating early science fiction. Then we went to Cockatoo Island, which was amazing, because you get to go on a ferry, and the whole island is like full of stuff. Sonia Lieber and David Chesworth's piece, This Is Before We Disappear From View, was one of the first pieces I saw, and was amazing because it fitted the space perfectly. It was just like seamless. It was like it was meant to always be there. And they were also responding to the controversies surrounding the beginning of the event.
The inspector's job is to observe, but not be observed.
Bianca Hester had Fashioning Discontinuities. Her work, oh my god, is so expansive. Like, she had a space on Cockatoo Island, like a whole floor, as a, magnet for all her various activities she was doing. But she'd been running around all over Sydney, digging up bits of it and moving it around, and she also had all these sort of activities, community activities that you could be involved in, and the whole list of stuff that she'd been doing was mind-boggling. She was definitely sort of the most proactive artist there, and seemed to be there, for the whole Biennale, sort of doing bits and pieces. She even had a performance on the day that I was there, so I imagine she would be quite exhausted. I don't know, maybe she has boundless energy, I don't know. Bush Power was one of the carnival-esque type pieces, and like such a crowd puller. It was pretty much all this gym equipment made to look ridiculous by sort of sticking bits of trees on them and putting like things up to the roofs and making them do things that gym equipment should, aren't intended to do. Like, there was this thing where it would you'd activate this pump that would push this liquid into this rubber pool, which would then form crystals, pink crystals on a fountain. It was all really like colourful and really, just really happy stuff. There was you could activate a skeleton that would dance with people as they walked past, and it was pretty wacky, and you could just see people's faces, just like, wow, except for the occasional, like, buff wanker who was actually, using the gym equipment properly, oblivious to the fact that there was all this crazy stuff going on. It sort of showed how narcissistic gym culture is in Australia, that you still get people that just go like, oh, great, I'm going to do some working out at this art event. So funny. Really good. As was Space Girl Dance, which was really wacky. It was super wacky. A lot of the video stuff was, like I said, a bit sort of dour, and some of it, like, there was this tonal thing with a lot of the videos where everyone spoke really slowly, and I sort of felt like, oh god, it's that cliche of European cinema, and everyone looking out to the middle distance, and this just blew all that apart. It was completely wacky, bonkers. Nathan Gray's artist who works mostly in sounds. This is a sound and video piece, but emphasis on sound. And it was several screens, and they started off quite calm, and I thought it was just sort of recording sounds around the island, and then videoing people sort of hitting stuff to make a sound, or slamming a door, or turning a light on, or like lots of different paces to it. So you sort of thought it was quite serious, and then it was like, oh, actually this is quite fun, and then it was good. Street Play Way was actually the first thing we saw when we came in. And you sort of had to climb over all these climb through all these sails and stuff like that. And then you got to the video at the end. And it was a really lovely piece of filmmaking. Just beautiful, warm, inclusive piece of filmmaking, and really optimistic. And whenever there was silence, you could hear sort of water lapping at the edge of the building you were sitting in. So that was lovely. But did I say that was by Alla von Brandenburg? Oh, and the last thing I wanted to highlight was a piece by Eva Rothschild called Boys and Sculpture. She works primarily in sculptural pieces. Like, she did this huge thing in Tate Britain that sort of took up the whole of that sort of centre gallery space. From what I've seen, I haven't seen a lot of her work, but she's really into the space around the pieces she makes and how they react to each other and to all that sort of business. And Boys and Sculpture was a video where she set up a gallery space with lots of her pieces in it, and then invited these young boys, like primary school age, what you're not allowed to do in a gallery, you can do here. So you can touch stuff. I think that's what she said. Like, you're allowed to touch stuff. And pretty much they just destroyed everything. Which was both fun and horrifying to watch at the same time. Because it sort of started, they'd sort of walk in, then gingerly sort of touch things, and then eventually like something fell over, and then it was chaos. It was just like everything became footballs or swords or There were some kids that were sort of trying to make things, like once everything had been sort of reduced to its, base elements, they were then trying to build things again, and then some little kid would come over and just kick it all over, and it was frightening. It was so frightening and fun at the same time. And it's probably the one thing I would recommend anyone see. There's a snippet of it on YouTube which I've used, but there's also an interview with the boys who participated, which is interesting too. It kind of made me think I would like to see girls in sculpture, or boys and girls in sculpture, because that would fit in a few theories I have about how we need women in places of power in order to keep men from just being destructive idiots. That's it. Actually, that's the end. It was fab. I would do it again, and I understand the criticisms, not all of them. Some of them are quite lame, actually. But you just can't say that having a massive, huge art biennale like this in Australia is a bad thing. There's nothing bad about that at all. It's all pluses.